Hello, Cal State East Bay community. I'm Leyla,
And I'm Erin.
and we are counselor faculty members at Student Health and Counseling Services. So today in this short video, we want to talk a little bit about what to do when we're feeling an emotional crisis. And as folks who walk through the world with targeted identities, there can be a lot of things in the world that can be upsetting, whether it's, Texas just passed some legislation, J.K. Rowling just tweeted some stuff. There's a lot that can get us stirred up. And just like it can be helpful to have an emergency preparedness kit for earthquakes and things like that, it can also be helpful to have an emotional safety kit or plan for when these situations get really overwhelming.
So a little bit about, the reason for the emotional safety plan is because sometimes we are in situations and we hear something that's upsetting and all of a sudden our emotions are like skyrocketing suddenly without coming out of nowhere. And they can feel really intense. We can get disoriented, we can lose our focus, we can maybe start to panic, we can have a lot of physiological reactions to these intense emotions. So we thought we would review some ways to support you through these moments of intense emotions so that you can kind of re-regulate yourself and get back to doing what it was you were doing.
Yeah. So we're coming here today with some different suggestions of things to kind of put in that toolkit. I always think it's useful to write things down or to put it on a piece of paper. So if there's things that you hear today that you're like, I like that one, I suggest writing it down and kind of keeping it for yourself in your little toolkit. So first, we'll talk a little bit about coping strategies that you can use in the moment when you're feeling really emotionally overwhelmed. And that could be anxiety, that could be sadness, that could be just feeling generally upset, it could be anger. Any of these things might be able to help in those moments. So the first approach that we're going to talk about a little bit is mindfulness approaches. So mindfulness, if you have not heard about this or seen an Instagram post about it, mindfulness is just kind of trying to bring your awareness to the present moment, to what's going on in the here and now. A lot of times when we're feeling intense emotions, it might be about something that's happened in the past or something that we think is going to happen in the future, but bringing ourselves to the here and now usually helps us remember that things might not be quite as scary as they feel. So one approach to this is the 5 senses activity. So the 5 senses activity, you may have heard this before, you may have heard another counselor talking about it, but you can go through your senses and say, okay, what are 5 things that I see? What are 4 things that I hear? What are 3 things that I can physically feel? 2 things that I can smell, and 1 thing that I can taste. And it's not, you don't have to like push yourself to observe these things, or, if you can't smell 2 things, that's all right. Just giving yourself space and time to see what's actually happening right here, right in front of me. And that can also help because when we're feeling really high emotion, we might be really trapped in like some intense thoughts. So kind of getting out of the thought process and into like what's here and now can kind of be helpful. Another way to do this is by color counting. So color counting is simply choosing a color and then picking out everything in the room that you can see that has that color. So if I were to be doing the 5 senses activity right now, I will share with you one thing that I can see, which is my tiny Egyptian cat. And that's pretty calming. That's pretty soothing right there. So, that's one way to approach these intense emotions. Another way to approach it is through breathing exercises. So I'm going to share my favorite breathing exercise, and there's a bazillion out there that can all be explored and might be helpful for you. So for me, my favorite breathing exercise is to put one hand on my chest and one hand on my belly. Appreciate that Erin's going to do this with us. And just we're going to do 3 breaths. First breath, just go ahead and breathe normally. Breathe in and breathe out. And then the second breath, you really focus on filling up your lungs and really filling your chest. So go ahead and breathe in and out. And the third breath, you focus on filling up your belly. So you should feel your tummy kind of expand a little bit underneath your hand when you breathe in, and feel it relax when you breathe out. So go ahead and try that. Breathe in and out. And then you can repeat that sequence as many times as you need to. And it helps us because most of the time we're not really taking full deep breaths, and doing that really helps our whole body to kind of reset. So those are a couple of suggestions, and Erin's going to share with us another in the moment coping skill.
Yeah, that was really great, that breathing exercise. Thanks. So this is a grounding exercise. So I know grounding is also one of those terms like mindfulness and breathing that we hear, but grounding is really when we're feeling, like imagine, a kite that has sort of like flown off, or something, a boat that has like, disconnected from its anchor. You're just sort of like floating out there, and you're not sort of feeling secure. You're not feeling like maybe in your body. You're not feeling in your person. You're just sort of disconnected. And that can make it really hard to manage a difficult situation, or heal ourselves, or tend to ourselves. So grounding really sort of brings us back into this moment, really brings us into our body and into something that feels grounded and secure. So one activity I like is called the safe place activity. So what you do is you close your eyes, or sit in a comfortable position, and you imagine a place that makes you feel calm, safe, secure. And you sort of picture the place in your mind. You picture what it is you're seeing around you, if it's like water, if it's plants, if it's cars, kind of wherever you are. You picture the sounds, that you're hearing. Are you hearing a highway? Are you hearing birds? Are you hearing the ocean? Are you smelling anything in particular? How does it sort of feel temperature-wise? And you sort of imagine yourself in that place. And you can really just take yourself there, for a good 5 minutes, and kind of let yourself ground into that place, and kind of re-regulate yourself. And that's a place you can take with you wherever you are. So that's another coping strategy that I think can be really helpful and is really mobile. So,
Erin, I'm curious if you have a particular safe place.
Oh, yes. So my place was like on a tropical beach at like dusk. So around 4 o'clock, where it's like not too hot. It's like the perfect temperature. I can smell the salty air, the sand. It just feels really grounding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Did you have a place?
I did. As you were talking through it, I imagined being in a bird's nest.
Oh.
I'm not necessarily sure what that's saying about what I need today, but it was lovely. It was very cozy, and like smelled like nature, and it was good times.
Oh, that's wonderful. I like that. Yeah. A pie in a tree.
Yeah. Thank you for walking us through that experience.
Yeah.
So, we have some strategies that you can use in the moment. And then we also want to be thinking about, what helps you feel nourished and valued kind of overall. What are some of the strategies that you might be able to do to kind of take your mind off of things, or to help yourself feel better? And we kind of throw that under the category of self-care, right? So that might include hobbies that you're really into or interested in. That might include time in nature. That might be taking a bath. That might be sipping your favorite tea or taking a walk. So there's a lot of different things that could fall under this category. And if you're interested in learning more about self-care, or about how to plan self-care for yourself, you can also check out our video on the 5 R's of self-care, and that can kind of give you some more ideas as well.
Awesome. That's exciting. So the sort of final category in our emotional safety toolkit is supportive options. So that's really the way in which we reach out to other people for support, you know, to help us feel better, to help us feel validated. You know, we all need support. We all need help. None of us can really do it alone. So some supportive options are, you know, reaching out to a trusted friend. Maybe there's a family member that you feel particularly connected to. You know, loved ones in your family, whether they're romantic partners. You know, reaching out to professionals, like, you know, reaching out for therapy, or reaching out for, you know, maybe getting you know, maybe a massage is a little bit of self-care and support. You know, calling a hotline if you're really struggling. They're open 24 hours. I know that some hotlines can be maybe challenging, but at the end of the day, they're always there for you, to listen non-judgmentally. So really thinking about ways that you can reach out to your community, reach out to the people around you, and lean on them for support, and ask them, you know, to help you through a very difficult situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that sometimes asking for help can be challenging. It can feel like, oh, I don't want to be a burden to other people, but oftentimes that's not really how people are feeling. A lot of times people do want to be there for us, and we just have to give them the chance. And with what Erin was saying, you know, I've heard folks say that they've had some experiences with hotlines that weren't their favorite. And I always think about a situation that happened to a friend of mine, actually, when they reached out to a hotline and didn't have a great experience. And then they called back about half an hour later and said that they were able to talk to someone who could provide them with exactly what they needed. So just know that, you know, even if you have a negative experience, it doesn't mean that that resource in general isn't potentially useful. So, and if you do feel like you ever need a hotline, you can call the counseling center at 510-885-3735 and hit option 2 after hours to be connected to a counselor. So that resource is there for you too. We want to make sure that you know about that in our community. So those are just some ideas. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more floating on the interwebs. So please continue to fill in your toolbox and find the things that work for you and that you can feel good about. And I hope that some of these things were helpful for you today. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us, Cal State community. We send you lots of warm wishes for comfort and good times.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out with us a little bit. And we wish you all the best in, you know, working through some of these challenging situations. We believe in you. Bye.